Hello, I'm Carrie Richardson with Leadership Springfield, one of the nonpartisan community organizations united with the shared goal of educating voters and engaging the candidates prior to the upcoming primary election. For the August 2nd primary election, the coalition is hosting a series of candidate interviews for the 7th Congressional District, as well as state, Senate, and House races. Other community nonpartisan members include Be Civil, Be Heard, Drury University's L.E. Metter Center for Politics and Citizenship, Junior League of Springfield, Leadership Springfield, NAACP Springfield, Ozarks Public Broadcasting, KSMU Radio, Springfield News Leader, Missouri State University, Ozarks Technical Community College's Political Science Department, and the Springfield Greene County Library District. Today, we are interviewing Democratic primary candidates for the 7th Congressional District. Those include Bryce Lockwood, John M. Woodman, and Kristen Radiker Schaefer. Given the large number of candidates seeking this position, the 7th Congressional District candidates will be interviewed in 3 separate programs airing this week. All 7th Congressional candidates will be interviewed individually and asked the same questions. They will have 1 minute to introduce themselves and 2 minutes to respond to each question. Questions were submitted by coalition partner organizations and were not provided to the candidates in advance. The order of candidate interviews was determined by a random drawing. Our first interview is with John M. Woodman, who joins me by Zoom. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's begin by having you introduce yourself and tell us why you decided to run for this office. You have 1 minute.
Well, I'm John M. Woodman. I'm running for Congress because I want to help make a positive difference. I didn't start out in life wanting to be a politician or have some kind of political power. I went to college and I studied math and physics and computer science, and then I actually went out and became a missionary. And I did so because I wanted to help make a difference in people's lives. I think we need, in political leadership, we need 2 things. We need people who are committed to our common good, and we need people who are capable of solving problems. And just naturally, and in my career, I've spent a whole career solving problems, and I've spent my whole life being committed to making a positive difference. And that's really why I'm running for Congress.
Thank you. Let's begin our questions. You have 2 minutes to answer each question. Question number one. Social Security trustees project that unless Congress acts, the Social Security program's trust funds will be depleted by 2034. Congress so far has failed to agree on a fix. What solution or mix of solutions would you back to ensure the long-term solvency of the country's Social Security program? You have 2 minutes.
Okay. You know, I think it's not really that difficult to solve the financial status of Social Security. Right now, when it comes to Social Security, we have a cap on the amount of income that is taxed as to Social Security. One easy way to solve Social Security would be to just lift that cap so that people who are bringing in far more money start to pay a little bit closer to the amount of taxes, to the percentage of taxes that you and I are paying. If you're a typical American, you are paying, I think the rate's like 12.3% of your income in Social Security taxes. But those who are up at the very top, they're not paying anything approaching that. And I think just by raising that limit some, we could have, there would be plenty of money to fund Social Security. It's not a hard problem to fix.
Question number 2. Recently, the Greene County Sheriff joined others on the Arizona-Mexico border to promote stricter border security. What would be your idea of a national approach to further prevent the trafficking of illegal drugs into Missouri and the prosecution of those caught selling or trafficking drugs? You have 2 minutes.
We've talked about about building more physical border down on our border. We've talked about this idea of a wall. That's an expensive solution that doesn't really work well. It's good to have border security. It's more economical, a better use of taxpayers' money to have more in the terms of surveillance. And I think what we need to fund is more in the realm of surveillance, and it's more in the realm of law enforcement.
Question number 3. In light of recent mass shootings, including those that targeted children, what do you think Congress should do to address gun violence? Would you support universal background checks, limits on high capacity magazines, other measures? You have 2 minutes.
I would support universal background checks, and I certainly would support limits on high capacity magazines. I think we have to look at what we can actually get done. Now, the tragedy of our mass shootings is that ever since Columbine in 1999, that's 23 years ago, we've gone through the same cycle of being shocked and then talking about things and then arguing about things and then ending up really not doing much of anything at all. Right now in Congress, the US Senate has passed a package that's a bipartisan package. It's been agreed on by both Republicans and Democrats. It doesn't go far enough. It doesn't include things like limits on high capacity magazines that I would love to see in there, but it does include some good things. And so, of course, I would strongly support that. The key thing is that we have to actually do something and get some measures in place that will actually make a difference instead of just arguing about it and doing nothing at all, which is what we've done now for the last 23 years.
Question number 4. How do you think the US should respond to the Russian invasion of Ukraine? If China invaded Taiwan, what actions, if any, should the US take in its defense? You have 2 minutes.
I think we should respond to the US, to the Russian invasion of Ukraine by doing the things that we've been doing and by staying the course. When Russia invaded Ukraine, it was very good to see our president go out and work hard to bring together and help lead an international coalition that is standing up and is helping the Ukrainian people fight back against the Russians. And we've got to keep doing that. And we've got to keep doing that over the long haul. China, the possibility of China invading Taiwan is a completely different situation. I think we need to continue to stand with Taiwan as well. I think there's also a broader question of how we manage our relationship with China over the coming years. And China, I think China is ultimately going to be probably the bigger long-term challenge than Russia. One of the things that we are doing that we need to continue doing is we need to continue being engaged with China, and we need to continue having a relationship with China, because that's going to be important to our security and the world's security as we go forward.
Question number 5 and the final question. If elected, how do you plan to communicate with your constituents? And in what ways would you support them holding you accountable? You have 2 minutes.
Well, one of the things that I'm certainly going to do that our present representative has almost famously not done is that I will have town halls and I will listen to you. And I will care about what you have to say, and I will care about your needs. There are two approaches to politics. One is people who are in it for political power. And you can be in it for political power and you can serve the people who are serving up big campaign donations. The other approach is to be in it to serve the people. I'm in it to serve the people. I'm here to listen to your needs. I'm here to help solve your problems. And so I will be there to listen to you. The other thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to be as transparent as I can be about the things that I'm working on and about the things that I'm pushing and the decisions that I'm working on. If I take a vote, I will make it a practice to post an explanation publicly as to what my vote was and why I voted in that way. And I will invite your comments and I'll invite your feedback, because I think our politicians should be and must be held accountable to the people. Thanks.
John M. Woodman, that concludes our interview. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. And again, I've been speaking with John M. Woodman, who's a candidate for the 7th Congressional District. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Our next interview is with Kristen Radiker Schaefer, who joins me by Zoom. Thank you, Kristen, for joining us. Let's begin by having you introduce yourself and tell us why you decided to run for this office. You have 1 minute.
Thank you for the opportunity. As you said, I am Kristen Radiker Schaefer. I live in Joplin, Missouri, and I have lived here for about 9 years now. And I decided to run for office because I just felt like there was a lack of communication and accountability from our representatives. And I also felt like there was a lack of investment in the community. And I just think that people should be represented by people that are as equally invested in the community as they are. And so I wanted to provide that accountability and communication to constituents so they know who they're voting for and what their representatives are voting for on their behalf.
Let's begin our questions. You have 2 minutes to answer each question. Question number 1. Social Security trustees project that unless Congress acts, the Social Security program's trust funds will be depleted by 2034. Congress so far has failed to agree on a fix. What solution or mix of solutions would you back to ensure the long-term solvency of the country's Social Security program? You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, Social Security is something that I've paid into. Everybody I know has paid into it in some form for so long. So I think it's extremely important that Congress does continue to figure out ways to fund Social Security no matter what, and to continue to collect that money on the behalf of people. I also, I understand that people don't like having money taken out of their checks. I get that too. I sometimes wonder why when I see that amount coming out, but I also know that it's hopefully going to be there when I need it. And I also think that there are just people that have worked hard their entire lives that deserve to have that safety net. And as far as how it should be funded, I think that we should continue to keep withdrawing from from employment taxes. And then also, I think that it's important to look into funding other programs and how effective they're being, and maybe find some cuts where necessary if they're not programs that are as effective as they should be, and continue to look into what additional sources of funding we can come up with to fix this, because it's something that is very important to so many people and they literally depend on it.
Question number 2. Recently, the Greene County Sheriff joined others on an Arizona-Mexico border to promote stricter border security. What would be your idea of a national approach to further prevent the trafficking of illegal drugs into Missouri and the prosecution of those caught selling or trafficking drugs? You have 2 minutes.
Okay. I think that, first of all, I definitely welcome immigrants into this country. I think that it is important that they come here legally. And I think it's important that we provide enough resources that they can come here legally when they, when they feel threatened or they just know that there's better opportunities here. So I think we need to first fix the issue of not allowing people in just because they're like, without real reason, and allow people that want to come here legally to have an efficient process to be able to apply for that. I think that reducing the amount of um, people trying to cross the border for safety reasons and that like through illegal entries, I think that reducing that would allow a lot more resources to allow the border patrol and additional security to really police the border for things that are coming in that really shouldn't be here, such as drugs. I think that secure borders are a good thing. And I also think that immigration is a good thing. So, especially when we have a labor shortage right now. And also, I think that the diversity provided by immigrants from anywhere is a good thing that we should welcome into our communities.
Question number 3. In light of recent mass shootings, including those that targeted children, what do you think Congress should do to address gun violence? Would you support universal background checks, limits on high capacity magazines, other measures? You have 2 minutes.
Yes, I would support all of those things. I would support background checks, possibly raising the age limit to 21 or maybe even higher if we find that that would be more helpful. I also think that it's important to not just take steps for the sake of taking steps, like outlawing guns or taking them away, because like that's not necessarily going to keep the guns out of the hands of people who would like to obtain them illegally. But I think that having background checks and making sure that people that are purchasing those weapons are responsible, they know how to use them, they know how to secure them, and they keep them out of the reach of children or people that might wish ill on others. I think that that is that's very important. And so I find I think that it's important to do things that are backed by research and not just grab the guns and take them away. But I also think it's important to address the issue in any way that we can. And I think that one of those ways is making sure that the people that have guns are the good guys, the law-abiding citizens that that maybe need them for self-defense or protecting others. Um, and also it's the Second Amendment, so people have a right to um, have those firearms with them. But I don't think that it's just like all the time everywhere with no limits or restrictions on it. I think if we can pass some very pragmatic things that keep them out of the hands as best we can. I know there's no perfect solution, but if we can keep them out of the hands of those uh, that that really shouldn't be having them, people that are convicted of domestic abuse, then I think that we would also be able to like better preserve the rights of those law-abiding citizens.
Question number 4. How do you think the US should respond to the Russian invasion of Ukraine? If China invaded Taiwan, what actions, if any, should the US take in its defense? You have 2 minutes.
That is such a tough one. um like I don't know, like I don't think we can go to war right now with anybody. I think that we have plenty of problems here at home that we really desperately need to address, and we need our resources going to those things. That being said, it's also incredibly important to value the lives of the Ukrainians and the Taiwanese, and the people that are just being like needlessly slaughtered for some land, because those are human beings just like everyone else. And I think it's important to make sure that we do what we can to offer our help without provoking Russia any further, or without making China feel like they have free reign. But as far as actual sending our troops in, I don't think that would be a wise decision. I don't know enough about all of the intricacies of Russia and Ukraine's relationship. I know a fair amount, but I know that there's a lot that you can't possibly know, not being as familiar with their cultures. And same with China and Taiwan. Um, it's important that people are able to freely express themselves, like in Taiwan, and not so much in China, and like in Ukraine. People would really, I don't think it would be good for those people to fall under Russian control, where they are already seen as um, hostile to the Russian government, and the Russian government has proven to be very hostile towards people that disagree with it. So I would, I think that we should do what we can through like advocating and um, just helping in any way we can. But I don't think that we should be able, or we should, I don't think it would be wise to go to war with Russia or China.
Fifth and final question. If elected, how do you plan to communicate with your constituents? And in what ways would you support them holding you accountable? You have 2 minutes.
I support constituents holding elected officials accountable in pretty much any way possible, through the ballot box, any non-violent, like obstructive way. I should clarify. But I think that the ballot box is a very good way to do that. Every 2 years, you can re-elect a different representative if you don't like what you're getting. And I think that people should feel as though they can pay attention because they can understand what's going on. And so I think that communicating clearly, with honest conversations with your constituents in person, on Zoom, any way that you can communicate with them, like possibly through an app, through email, and just make sure that constituents' voices are heard, even if you don't necessarily agree with them personally. I am not running to represent the Democratic Party or Democrats at large. I'm running because the 7th district has a very unique set of issues that may apply other places, but the entire set as a whole is going to be unique to the 7th district of Missouri. And I think that you have to live here and you have to be a part of the community you want to serve if you're going to truly advocate on their behalf. So I would like to have town halls regularly, Zoom calls, however people want to, get a hold of me. I would want them to feel free to do that, because that's what's important, is listening to people and making sure that you hear them first, so you can accurately communicate their concerns and ideas back to the other elected officials in Washington, and make sure that you're passing bills and laws that will benefit them, regardless of which party those bills may be introduced by.
Kristen Radiker Schaefer, that concludes our interview. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us. Again, I've been speaking with Kristen Radiker Schaefer, who is a candidate for the 7th Congressional District. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
Our next interview is with Bryce Lockwood, who joins me by Zoom. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's begin by having you introduce yourself and tell us why you decided to run for this office. You have 1 minute.
My name is Bryce Lockwood. I decided to run for this office after there was a lot of things that were needing to be done that are not getting done: healthcare, highways, bridges, etc.
Let's begin our questions. You'll have 2 minutes to answer each question. Question number 1. Social Security trustees project that unless Congress acts, the Social Security program's trust funds will be depleted by 2034. Congress so far has failed to agree on a fix. What solution or mix of solutions would you back to ensure the long-term solvency of the country's Social Security program? You have 2 minutes.
Social Security program is a very popular program, especially among us seniors. It is in danger of running out of money. I think we need to pass a law allowing for more contributions from both who are participating or working and by the employers. Also, we need to be a little more careful about how we're investing the Social Security money so that we're getting some return on our investment to ensure the future security of the program.
Question number 2. Recently, the Greene County Sheriff joined others on the Arizona-Mexico border to promote stricter border security. What would be your idea of a national approach to further prevent the trafficking of illegal drugs into Missouri and the prosecution of those caught selling or trafficking drugs? You have 2 minutes.
The catching and processing of those that are trafficking in drugs is up to the law enforcement agencies. My concern about immigrants, right now we have 11.4 million job openings here in the United States, and we have a severe problem with inflation. If we would allow more legal immigrants into our country, that would alleviate the unemployment, the excess job problem, and thus lead to lower inflation. I think we need to have a more legal means of allowing green card people to come in here where they can go to work. Most of these folks that are south of the border are not just there for drug running. They are there because they want a job and they want to better themselves. We need those people to do that 11.4 million jobs that are open here in the United States.
Question number 3. In light of recent mass shootings, including those that targeted children, what do you think Congress should do to address gun violence? Would you support universal background checks, limits on high capacity magazines, other measures? You have 2 minutes.
We do need to pass a law outlawing high capacity magazines. I'm a veteran of 2 wars, carried an M16 the year that I was in Vietnam in the 1960s and 1970s. Those are weapons of war. They're not needed by the general public. At the very least, we need to have universal background checks passed. We need to have red flag laws passed. If a person is a danger to themselves, a danger to others or their family members, they should have at least a temporary injunction not allowing them to have access to firearms.
Question number 4. How do you think the US should respond to the Russian invasion of Ukraine? If China invaded Taiwan, what actions, if any, should the US take in its defense? You have 2 minutes.
I believe we're doing about the best that we can with the Soviet invasion of Ukraine. It appears to me that the Soviets are running out of personnel and ammunition both at the present time. I do think that we should be more supportive more rapidly of the long-range artillery that the Ukrainians need to be able to answer this invasion. As for the possibility of the Chinese invasion of Taiwan, it appears from the measures that we have already taken concerning the Ukrainian situation that that should be a warning to the Chinese that it's not just open to allow an invasion of Taiwan. I fully believe that we should come to the defense of the Taiwanese people. They are a free people. They have been since the late 1940s. We should defend them.
5th and final question. If elected, how do you plan to communicate with your constituents? And in what ways would you support them holding you accountable? You have 2 minutes.
I believe in town hall meetings. So far, I've been getting out and meeting people as much as I possibly can. The town hall meetings are the place where the general public can come and meet the candidate, share their views and improvements that they would like to see made. The current U.S. Congressman for the 7th Congressional District has not done a very good job of doing that. And I believe that we really do need to have more community meetings with the public.
Bryce Lockwood, that concludes our interview. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us. And again, I've been speaking with Bryce Lockwood, who is a candidate for the 7th Congressional District. Thank you, Bryce.
Thank you, Kara. I appreciate it.
This concludes the interviews for the 7th Congressional District Democratic primary. The primary election is on Tuesday, August 2nd. We hope you continue to research the candidates and exercise your right and privilege to vote. If you have questions about where or how to vote or the status of your voter registration, please call the Greene County Clerk's office at 417-868-4055. These interviews are recorded and will be posted on coalition websites and social media platforms after today's broadcast. No part of the audio or video may be reproduced or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic or mechanical, without the written permission of the copyright holder. League of Women Voters, all rights reserved. Thank you for joining us.